The history of nuclear waste is nearly as fascinating as it is terrifying. Plutonium was first isolated in the early 1940s. Plutonium occurs naturally, but only found in the Earth's crust. There are several tons of plutonium in our biosphere, a result of a legacy of atomic nuclear energy weapon testing throughout the 1950s and 60s. There are 99 operating nuclear power plants in the United States and 4 under construction. After World War II, the United States wanted to try out its nuclear arsenal, and thus decided that the Bikini Atolls was a premier location in the southern Pacific to do so. It became its premier location from 1946 to 1958. On March 1st, 1954, the United States tested a 15-ton hydrogen bomb, which completely evaporated 3 islands and was over 1,000 times more powerful than bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. The environmental effects are still felt today. As the United States were testing out their nuclear arsenal, so too were the USSR. However, they chose to use a known populated area in Kazakhstan known as Semipalatinsk, or the Polygon. This was their primary nuclear testing site from 1949 to 1989. There were over 456 bombs in total that were tested here, with over 200,000 people directly affected, and nearly 1 in 20 children born today have horrendous birth defects. A recent international nuclear incident was in Japan in 2011, when Japan was hit by a magnitude 9 earthquake followed by a 15-mile tsunami. This damaged 3 water coolants within the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. No deaths were directly caused by radiation, but nearly 1,000 people died from the evacuated area of over 100,000 people.
America's relationship with nuclear energy has never been a smooth one. While the potential power is enticing, there are equally heavy costs associated with mishandling nuclear energy in any form. Since the Cold War, America has had a long string of mishandlings. Some have been near misses, others have been disasters. For example, there is currently a hydrogen bomb sitting in the ocean between Georgia and South Carolina. In 1958, a B-47 bomber suffered damage during a training exercise, during which it happened to be carrying this hydrogen bomb. The pilots decided that it would be best not to have the bomb on board when the plane went down, so they dropped it into the ocean. To this day, no one has managed to find it. In 1962, days after Soviet missile silos had been discovered in Cuba, a bear was spotted wandering an American airbase in Duluth. The alarm was rung, and somewhere along the line, intruder alert turned into shoot everything at Russia right now, before the mistake was corrected. The worst offense, however, is likely the events of 1959 that took place just north of Los Angeles. A 12-year-old reactor facility suffered a massive power surge that the employees could not contain. Knowing that doing nothing would cause a devastating meltdown, the surging reactor was opened, and the built-up radiation was released directly into the atmosphere. Since this event, the nearby neighborhoods have experienced a 60% increase in the rate of cancer. While the facility itself has experienced cleanup, there has been no effort since the incident to clean up the surrounding environment in any way. This is a habit that has not disappeared with time. While nuclear power has its advantages, the American government in particular tends to spend more time investing energy in production than it does in damage control.
Just north of Arvada, a short drive up 93, commuters today see windmills taking advantage of the energy which is safely generated from the high winds coming from the Rocky Mountains. Less than 30 years ago, this location was home to a nuclear weapons trigger plant, known then as Rocky Flats Nuclear Plant. So what is Rocky Flats? Rocky Flats was a location where plutonium, uranium, beryllium, and 8,000 other chemicals were used to create more than 70,000 fission cores, also known as nuclear weapon triggers. After several years of investigations, due to tips from former laborers, the FBI and the EPA worked together to raid Rocky Flats. According to the Denver Post, on June 6, 1989, a convoy of about 30 vehicles carrying more than 70 armed agents of the FBI and the Environmental Protection Agency raided the U.S. Department of Energy's plutonium processing plant at Rocky Flats for suspected environmental crimes. This event is the only event where two government agencies have worked together to raid another government agency in U.S. history. Coincidentally, Rocky Flats was shut down the same year the Berlin Wall fell. Pictured is a photo of Rocky Flats in operation. The power plant covered nearly 1,800 acres. Contamination at Rocky Flats. It is logical to believe there may have been some mishandling of chemicals at Rocky Flats due to the 30 years in operation, the amount of chemicals in use, and the 4,000 workers, which may have caused an error to occur at any time. However, there was widespread mishandling of the disposal of chemicals throughout the history of Rocky Flats. In 1957, Rocky Flats had its first fire, which if it had not been contained would have had effects comparable to Chernobyl in the Denver area. In 1969, Rocky Flats had another fire, which caused widespread panic and protest around the Denver area. Plutonium particles, which can be transmitted in the air and absorbed into blood through your lungs, were found over 12 miles away at a school. The levels of plutonium in the soil were hundreds of times higher than before the fires. Unfortunately, for those in the Denver metro area, the half-life for plutonium-239, the most commonly used radioactive isotope of plutonium, has a half-life of 28,000 years. There were no efforts taken to measure the levels of plutonium in the air released by the fires. Plutonium particles are a leading cause of lung cancer today. The exposure experienced by the fires is comparable to the exposure to radiation that a person gets near nuclear test sites. Aside from the fires, Rocky Flats was not known by its laborers as taking the safest precautions. From 1959 to 1970, one observer noted 3,000 barrels which were filled with toxic chemicals, mostly plutonium, sitting outside on the plains near the nuclear power plant. These barrels were left to rust. The bottoms of the barrels rusted through, leaking the plutonium and other chemicals into the soil. The Department of Energy has admitted to over 3,000 tons of plutonium having gone missing from Rocky Flats. At least 62 pounds of this plutonium were found in the air vents around the nuclear power plant. Cleanup for Rocky Flats was estimated to take over 30 years and several $billions. The cleanup was accelerated and began in 1992 and finished in 2006. Pictured below is a barrel from Rocky Flats which held chemicals and had rusted through. Today, Rocky Flats is a national wildlife refuge. In 2007, Rocky Flats National Wildlife Refuge was opened to the public. The wildlife refuge sits beneath the Flatirons of the Rocky Mountains and is wonderful for light hiking and biking. Out of the 6,000 acres used by Rocky Flats, only 1,308 of the core power plant is closed to the public for continued monitoring and cleanup of plutonium. Today, nice homes such as the Candelas residential area, which offer homes starting at about $300,000, are developing just 1.3 miles south of the core power plant. These homes are family homes and offer an eco-friendly community. Each home has to have an energy rating of 3. It is not a secret that there is still contamination around Rocky Flats, but it is unknown how much contamination there is or the harmful side effects of this contamination. Today, most people are told there is still Rocky Flats plutonium in the soil off-site, but movement of the settled and revegetated soil by the winds occurs at a very low rate, even during windstorms, and they are not to be concerned. Pictured below is a photo of Rocky Flats National Wildlife Refuge today. You can see the windmills and the flatirons in the background.
Seen throughout this video, for over 70 years, nuclear testing and waste has harmed hundreds of thousands of people and devastated our environment. It is our hope that humanity will learn from their mistakes and put an end to nuclear weapons.